Men, Women and Power. A live conversation in the wisdomfactory.net with John Freeman and Professor Dr. Barbara von Maybaum. The event was hosted by Heidi Hörnlein and Mark Davenport in the Italian non-profit association Il Paradiso Integrale. This is part 3 with the topic Both Men and Women Need a Change in Mindset.
So that's my question to John. Isn't it time that men break this this conceptualization they are kept in themselves?
I'm not going to disagree with that. I wish I knew how to make that happen faster. There's something, and I'm kind of sensing into why isn't that happening? Why hasn't that happening? I mean, what happened? Why can I write a book which goes right into the center of this conversation that is totally ignored? Nobody is asking the questions, and so when the idea of challenging this alienating orange, as you refer to it, when that comes up, there doesn't seem to be a space generally in the culture for men to go there. And I don't know what would create, I mean, I spend a lot of time blogging and writing and talking to people in the hope that that space will get created. And I feel like actually I'm missing something too, because it isn't happening.
I would like to say something to that. Today in the car, we thought about, there was this tiny little car in front of us and a girl inside, and I said, this is a girly car. And we were talking about that men still want to buy big cars. They want to be, isn't that maybe something, a heritage from really a biological trait, that men have this to be assertive like this,
occupy space,
and so they are fine in orange, you know. They don't even notice what they miss. They notice only, like you said, you notice many things only after I brought you there.
I'm not sure that that's as true as it looks. I mean, on a surface level, it can look like that, because the conscious attention isn't being paid to what's being felt. The underlying truth is that men are showing all the evidences of being extremely stressed by that situation.
Yes, absolutely true.
And
absolutely
somehow that isn't turning into, we have to do something different here. It's a kind of entrapment, or it looks like that to me. I don't know whether men do need to occupy space. I mean, that's also part of, is that part of what we're trained to do? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit in this direction. I wanted also to say that men were trained not to feel themselves and not to realize what is going on in themselves. So you say they are highly stressed, and I do think it's true, but they don't notice it and they don't want to, you know, even if they are almost breaking down, but they continue because they don't realize it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but I think one answer might be that it would be really traumatizing to come to the point to realize how you deal with yourself. And this is true for a man or for a woman who is disconnected from her feelings and from her intuition as well. It's very painful to go to that point in yourself. And well, this might explain it.
Yeah, there's a lot in the kind of big boys don't cry I mean, it's like it is very, it's quite a deep training for most men. So, and whereas, you know, women are, it's not only that women are sort of allowed to cry, it's that the whole of the cultural upbringing is, well, women are going to have to relate because they've got to relate to the children. I mean, okay, that mindset has been shifting a bit, and the notion of men who have actual feeling relationships with their children is one of the places where I think this has changed. Outside the home, it hasn't. Outside in the working world, it hasn't. So this is a slow cultural process, I think, that we're witnessing, and the trouble with it is it needs to be happening faster if we're going to have a sustainable and healthy way of running the planet.
Yeah, but is perhaps the kind of, in Western civilization, this kind of shift to the right, is that a reaction against the demands, the threat of the chaos of a system breaking down, and people having to look at themselves in ways that they didn't have to in past generations?
Well, I think we all try to figure an agenda to a different society which is less harmful and less damaging. So that's why we are talking about it. But the future somehow touches grief and touches feelings of failure. And maybe we just should invite the courage to feel failure and to know that we have followed a pathway which is not leading to life. And this, of course, as a man, needs courage, much more than from a woman. To acknowledge that the agenda is sort of leading to an impasse is, of course, not something which gives you the feeling of strength.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. There's so much in what you've just said and in what Mark said before that about the kind of polarization that happens in our current situation, where fear and stress, they either push people, or people respond by going down and into the older systems and responding more deeply from the fear and putting up barriers and walls and you know, going for Brexit and electing Trump and all of that. And the alternative would be for us to find ways of moving up spiral and becoming more integral, and of actually moving out of the fear into something which is much more of a sense of, we do have the power if we choose to do something different. And that, to me, is also part of this sense of entrapment. We're still in the middle of that, and it sometimes feels as if it's only when things break down that we'll let go of the attempt to do things the old way, because it will become very visible that the old ways aren't working to more people in the way it's visible to us right now. But then what's going to take people from that place of fear and grief and uncertainty and panic and whatever it is, what's going to enable more of us, more of the world, to move into a higher perspective viewpoint?
Well, to move up this spiral, to me, is sort of dependent on the capacity to open the heart and to appreciate the other. So if this is true, it would mean that what is really needed between men and women is that they appreciate each other.
Absolutely.
And this is difficult for men beyond the sexual and the erotic sphere, or the family mother sphere. and it's difficult for women too. I remember a situation where I said something like this, and a woman stood up and said, "This is definitely something I will not give to the man, appreciation." And of course, if we go on like that, it can't work. We need to listen to each other and to the wisdom and the knowledge of each other and to appreciate. I think that could be eventually an agenda to move upwards, the spiral.
Yeah.
There are some comments. They are coming back to what we said before. It's Vivek, who actually lives in London, but he is from India. And he says, we need feminine and masculine to be in balance, but the present economy forces every woman to give up femininity. Even women, yeah. To give up femininity and become masculine, which is a tragedy in his view.
Sure.
And then the other thing that we addressed before already. So
he is absolutely right. But on the other hand, there are many women who quit the business and start independent work because they want to work in a different way. And I remember that, like me,
like you.
And I remember that even a very high percentage of new created jobs go back to this attempt of women to have a workspace which is more appreciative, more humane, more flexible to time needs of family, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counterforce had worked there where young professional women in their 30s or so would start to really feel that the professional world is not satisfying for them, and that they're missing out on a big chunk of their own femininity. And so, for example, in their 20s, female lawyers outnumber male lawyers. By the time they reach 40, it's the other way around. They don't stay there. It's not their world. They don't feel comfortable. It's not really necessarily that they're forced out. It's just they don't want to be there.
And what you are saying is what Jordan Peterson says about his experience as a clinical practitioner, a psychotherapist, and he has this experience. He's working a lot with these high-performance women, and they say at a certain time when they are 30-something, they say, do I really want that, or do I want a family? And I think, yes, why not? Why is having a family and having children minor to being a successful money-earning lawyer?
Yeah. All of that. I mean, a lot of my my work colleagues are women who fit what you're describing, and one of the things that I think inhabits this space is the extent to which, because it is still the case in a lot of relationships and in a lot of families, that women, particularly when they're having families, they're kind of given a role, or there is a natural role which allows them to be in the space where they are still responsible for the family, and they're also going to manage their career alongside, and they may, they have a child and then they come back one day a week or whatever. One of the and there's nothing wrong with that, but one of the side effects of that is that the mindset is still, both for the collective and in men's minds, oh, in order for all that to work, I still have to be the breadwinner. Yeah. So that history still carries on as something which makes it more difficult for men to break out of the mold than for women.
Yeah, I think the so-called Generation Epsilon, it's sort of a first access to change this mode, because there are more. It seems that there are more and more men who claim that they would like to have more time for their families than the normal professionals so far, which I think is only successful if they really have the longing, if they really have the wish to change their time schedules and their time frames, because all this is organized around time. You need certain patterns of time if you want to bring up your children in a good way. And as long as this is only a task for the women, then it's difficult. But as soon as men realize that they're really, really missing something very important in their life, to realize how precious the upbringing of life is, they won't feel the longing and they won't go for it. So again, it's a hard issue, I think.
But maybe they feel the longing, but they fear to be overrun in the career ladder, and they are down somewhere where they don't want to stay. But take this moment where I talk. There is another person here with a very long comment. Men, Women and Power, a conversation with John Freeman, Barbara von Maybaum, Heidi Hörnlein and Mark Davenport at thewisdomfactory.net. The next excerpt is available at http://bit.ly/powermanwomen, all written together.